So catching up on the action the last few minutes here, we had Jim Nichols overroll hoop 5 once again and go crashing into the leg, and Alison Sharp got in, made 3 hoops with red and set a leave, giving her a score of 18 to Nichols's 14. Nichols has just hit the lift and is back in with Black. Now Black's already made 10 hoops, so he can only make 2 more before he has to set up. But what he'll probably do in this situation is make 2 hoops with Black, and then, because the red ball has already made 12 hoops, you'll notice there's a red clip on the top of that peg there. You can't quite see it at the moment, but I assure you it's there. Because the red ball has made all its hoops, if it is hit onto that peg in the middle of the lawn, that is the 13th hoop, and then it is removed from the game. So it is very possible that Jim Nichols will try and remove one of the opponent's balls from the game in a moment after he makes 2 more hoops. That'll give him a disadvantage in that he'll still be behind on hoops, but he'll have 2 balls on the lawn and his opponent will only have 1. So that should be a little bit of spice to the end of this game. He's just snuck through the 11th hoop there, just enough to get a swing on the ball to hit blue. Calls referee via the raised mallet, just in case. Just wants to make sure he doesn't hit the ball with the edge of the mallet or miss it or commit some other fault, which often happens when there are lots of other foreign obstacles that villainously interpose themselves between a swinging mallet and a ball. Asking for 2 referees now. Often players like having 2 referees there. Just have that extra set of eyes. Occasionally a referee can make an incorrect decision. And there are a lot of different kinds of things that could go wrong here, depending how you play the stroke. Player can commit a fault by hitting the ball with something other than the flat face of the mallet. So if they hit it with the corner or edge of the mallet, that's a fault. If they pivot the mallet on the ground, so if any part of their arms are touching the ground as they play this stroke, any part of the arm that is in contact with the mallet touches the ground while they play the stroke, that's a fault. If they pivot their arm on their leg as they play the stroke, that's a fault. If they hit the ball that they're aiming for with the mallet, that's another fault. Lots of things could go wrong. It's always good to have 2 referees in a situation like that, if possible, if they're available. We only had 1 referee there available, so an out player from the other game was asked to come and act as a second referee. So Nichols now, it'll be interesting to see how he goes about these last couple of hoops and whether or not he does try and take red off the lawn, to peg red out, the opposition's ball. An interesting piece of news in the second 8's, the final game of the tournament there was played between David Luxmore from Queensland and Murray Baum from South Australia. They each had an equal amount of wins coming into the last game, and they played each other. Now remember that croquet is a game where it's the first to 26 that wins, and if you don't get to 26 within the prescribed time limit. The winner is whoever is ahead on hoops. Now, although they are both the top of their block, the two best players of the block, they were on a lawn which had quite a few slopes, and it was very tricky conditions, especially in the wind. And the final score was 10-7. And it's not the best score for a tournament like this. It's probably actually the worst score in their block, ironically being the two best players that played the game. But the result was decided, and David Luxmore from Queensland takes the crown and the second 8's, which is the Tom Howard Cup, named after a former very good player here in Australia. If these players out here play well enough, they may well have a cup or a shield or a trophy or a spoon or something like that, a cigarette lighter, maybe in a bygone era, named after them. At the moment, it doesn't look like it's going to happen on this lawn. The wind is challenging both of these players. Jim Nichols has made more mistakes than Alison Sharp, but Alison's have cost her more purely because of the state of the game and the situation of the balls at the time. Nichols now has approached the last hoop with the black ball, so the 12th hoop. He has potentially allowed for the hill, which has caught him twice already today on this hoop. However, he's allowed for it on the wrong side of the hoop, so that hasn't done him much good. Now he's looking at where to retreat to with this last shot. So he's decided he can't make the hoop, and he's going to go somewhere down here, down the south, down near blue, his partner ball, so that when the opposition comes along, hopefully they miss, and if they do, his blue and black will be close together, ready to hit and to play on. Interestingly, again, in the second lawn up on your screen, we have Trevor Bassett playing there. His opponent, Stephen Richards, has got both balls round to the peg, so he's made 24 hoops in total out of a required 26. And Bassett somehow, I didn't quite see how, managed to get in, and is just about to make the 9th hoop with his black ball. So he has a chance. Remember, Richards up there, who's leading that game, has a chance to come second in this event. He's currently sitting on 9 wins, as is Jim Nichols, the player on the game on the lawn closest to us, so lawn 3. So if they either both win or both lose, they'll be level on games. I've been told that apparently this year there is now a playoff for second place if two players end up level on games. So Stephen Forster's won the first 8's, as David Luxmore has the second. So that's all determined, but a playoff for second place is still possible. Alison Sharp's just hit back in there, so let's go and keep this one going for a little while, which is very good for Sharp. Scores, as you see, 18-15. Not particularly pretty scores as far as croquet goes. Very often, if you have a score of 9 or 12 or 21, they're counted more often than not as good clean scores. That means you've done a certain amount of hoops without making, or suggests that you've done a certain amount of hoops without making mistakes. Anything other than those suggests that you've mucked up at some point, or your opposition has done something untoward towards you. And in this case, both players have made mistakes. Both have done some very good play, but the wind is challenging both. If you're new to croquet, I hope you're enjoying your taste of the sport here and seeing that it's slightly more complex than just hitting the opponent's ball out of the way so that you can go through a hoop. Strategy can be more akin to something like snooker, or can be thought of as something like that. You have a certain, in snooker you've got a certain sequence of balls you have to pot into pockets, whereas here you have a certain sequence of hoops through which you have to put the balls. And if you get the correct ball through the correct hoop in the correct order, then you get another shot. If you hit another ball, you get 2 more shots. And you can accumulate shots up to a certain point as you go around, and theoretically you can carry on for half an hour without your, or even more, without your opponent getting a chance. Just like snooker, you can play a break and clean the table up. Here in croquet you can do pretty much the same thing. So for example, Alison Sharp here, at the moment she has 1 shot and she is for this hoop. She's used blue, so she can't hit blue and accumulate any more shots. She has to get through this hoop to continue. If she does so, which she does, and she has done so hitting blue, she's now got 2 more shots. But she must take the 2 shots, or the first of the 2 shots, from wherever blue ended up. So she's moved yellow into contact with blue, and here is the first of her 2 shots. Now she's coming down the lawn to the hoop in the bottom left corner of your screen. So at the moment she's doing an anti-clockwise spiral. So starting from the hoop at the top left that she just came through, she's going through that hoop towards us, and now this hoop down here to the left, again towards the camera, and then she'll move around to the right hand side of the lawn, or at least she would have had she not missed that shot, and spiraled back up through the hoops on the other side and then down the middle. However, that's the second or even third time today where I've seen her miss an uncharacteristically short shot. Now this is day 4 of the competition, the last day of the event. Maybe a bit of fatigue or mental fatigue is setting in. Maybe she's relaxed a bit given that she's no longer in contention for the title. But normally we'd expect to see her hit shots like that. As I said earlier, it's very much about doing the simple shots over and over again, which differentiates a really top player from just a very good player. Not necessarily the difficult shots. The best players in the world are the best not because they are more accurate than any other. Certainly they are normally as good as anybody in their accuracy of their shots, nor are they necessarily the best tacticians. They're, again, generally as good as others as in the tactical department, but what sets them apart from the others who have both of those skills is not making mistakes on the easy shots, just applying themselves 100% mentally for every shot in the game. Parallel to tennis, if you watch a really great mentally focused player, if you watch a Rafael Nadal or Roger Federer, irrespective of whether they are serving for the match in a Wimbledon or Grand Slam final or playing a number 300 in the world at some minor tournament somewhere, and they're leading 1 set to love, 5 love, 40 love, they're still trying to ace their opponent at 200 kilometres an hour with a perfect shot. The mind doesn't go away. It's trying to play every shot as perfectly as they possibly can, again and again and again. And that's what the same principle is involved for the best players in croquet.
Got 7 minutes of battery.
All right, now back to the action. I'm joined on the commentary balcony by co-expert commentator Gareth Denyer, who's just finished his last game in the second eights, defeating David Johnston 2014, which was a good way to win. How are the lawns playing at the moment, Gareth?
Well, first of all, Callum, very kind of you to call me an expert, because I certainly don't feel that way. Yeah, the really tricky thing at the moment is the wind, and of course the lawns here are quite undulating as well. So it's often when you're approaching a hoop, you think that you've hit it just right, but it will just roll off. And of course, the softer you hit a shot, the more it rolls.
Yes, the more chance it's got for the wind to intervene. That's what's happened to Jim Nichols here. I don't know whether you've seen any of this game, but twice he has, maybe even 3 times, he's over-rolled hoop 5 from a pretty easy approach. There's a bit of a slope there, but the wind certainly is a factor.
Yeah, but Alison looking extremely good now for this finishing turn, coming through 4 back. The blue is just a perfect reception ball for her.
Indeed, and even though there's nothing at hoop 11 exactly, they've got 2 balls over there, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, that's right. So whenever you have 2 balls close together, it's very easy to
go to one and then get behind the other.
Yeah, that's right. So two balls are as good as a rush, as they say.
Yep, certainly. She's played well. She has missed a couple of short shots, just moments of inattention or whatever it may be.
Yeah, Alison is very, very affected by the wind. We had a chat about it earlier, and Pete Landreeb's tip was to wear a beanie, because if you have a beanie on, then it stops your ears from hearing the wind,
noticing it,
and it also stops you from feeling the wind as well. So it just allows you to isolate yourself from the wind. I mean, it still obviously affects the mallet and everything, but it's not.
A lot of people it's interesting to see what size and what shape mallets get affected by the wind most. Some people who hold the mallet right at the top find it very, very disturbing, purely because there's such a great leverage on the bottom of the mallet when the wind catches it. But also, even if you're holding the mallet quite a way down the shaft, if you have a heavy mallet head, as soon as the wind takes it off, you can't get it back online. So sometimes people with very light mallets can just crush it with their hands and keep it straight. But
okay, I didn't realise that. I would have thought it was almost the opposite, that if you had a heavier mallet, then the wind is going to affect it less than the lighter one.
That is true up to a point, but when it does go offline, it's very difficult to get back on, purely because of the weight.
Yeah.
Now, for those of you not expert in the croquet equipment that we use for this sport, the mallets can be made out of pretty much anything you like, but the faces with which you hit the ball must be of the same playing properties as wood, whatever on earth that means, because you can have almost any sort of wood you want. They can have sort of springy wood and high density wood or soft wood or balsa wood, but as long as the faces have the playing properties, so don't have coils or springs in them or something like that.
So it's to stop that sort of thing.
Yeah, so it's the same as golf, taking out the springy head.
Yeah. Okay.
So as long as that requirement is met, and both end faces are symmetrical, so you can't have one small face or one pointing in a slightly sloped direction, so you can hit around corners or anything like that. You can play with whatever you like. Some of them are made out of wood, some metal, some carbon fibre, and they range between about 1.5 to 4 pounds roughly in the old scale of measuring things for total weight. So it's quite a heavy instrument.
And they tend to be weighted at the ends, don't they, Cal? They